Good evening and welcome back to Paisa Bolta hai. State Bank of India, India's premier bank, has announced its results. So, should we go ahead and buy it or we should not buy it? So, today I want to talk about it. Welcome back to पैसा बोलता है. पैसा बोलता है में फिर से आपका स्वागत है. मैं आज स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का विश्लेषण करूंगा. उनका क्वार्टर रिजल्ट आ गया और आज मैं स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के हिस्ट्री के बारे में कुछ शब्द बोलूंगा. उसके बाद मैं और डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस करूंगा. तो हाउ डिड State Bank of India come to about? Before Indian independence, there was no Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India came to existence just around the time that India became independent. Before that, the clearing and the entire banking system at the lender of the last resort used to be the Imperial Bank of India. The Imperial Bank of India was a British owned bank with offices in Delhi, Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay. This bank used to control the fund flow in the country and was the largest commercial bank. It did both roles, that of a central banker, clearing operations, and also the role of one of India's largest banks. India had separate princely kingdoms, and each kingdom had its own bank. Like Travancore had its own bank, Mysore had its own bank, Jaipur had its own bank, Bikaner had its bank. So, all these seven nations had their own banks. So, when India became independent, what happened is the Imperial Bank of India became the State Bank of India. And this Bank of Mysore, Bank of Travancore, became subsidiaries of this bank and called the State Bank of Travancore, State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Indore, State Bank of Jaipur and Bikaner, and so on. There were seven such subsidiary banks. Over a period of time, after India liberalized and State Bank and all these companies went public, it was in good intention that we wanted to merge all these banks into one, and one by one, all these banks were merged together. There also used to be a State Bank of Hyderabad. So the State Bank of India you see today is a merger of seven or eight banks, which is a composite bank. The problem with State Bank of India is it is owned by the government. Even today, 53% of the stake is owned by government. And by law, if you want to bring it below 50%, then you have to pass an act through parliament, which all governments have not done. And therefore, there is a funding issue in State Bank of India. It cannot raise much equity capital because whenever it has to raise equity capital, the center has to put in money. But the center is already stuck for money. We are running a huge fiscal deficit, and therefore the central government cannot keep on pumping money. So suppose they want to raise 200,000 or 100,000 crores in equity, 50,000 crores has to come from the central government. And the central government does not have 50,000 crores to invest in State Bank. So to work around this problem, you brought all these companies together and made it into a separate bank and showed up the capital. The other thing what they did is all the operations were spun off as separate companies. Like cards was made into a separate company called SBI Cards, where you had an equity partner from outside and also the management was left to them. Like that, State Bank has partnerships. Like State Bank of India Mutual Fund AMC, State Bank AMC, is a partnership between the French company Armand and the main State Bank. So with the SBI Life started as a partnership with an outside company. Today is a completely owned subsidiary of the bank, but is run like a private company. So is SBI General Insurance. But the main bank is still controlled by the government. What is the problem when the government controls a bank? Is the following. The ministers will call up and there will be telephone banking loans. You will remember that Adani's Australia project got a $1 billion loan sanctioned within minutes without due process being followed. Not to say this loan would go bad, but in 7 or 8 minutes, this loan of $1 billion was given. This is only the tip of the iceberg. There are several such favors where telephone calls ensure that loans are made. Normally, such loans go bad. This is why Punjab National Bank has a big NPA problem from Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi. Like that, State Bank of India has its own fair share of big non-performing assets. This year's result is extraordinary because all the pent-up NPAs have been written off. The government has infused equity and therefore the profits look good. But this is the beginning of the rate tightening cycle and rates have tightened now. And next 2-3 years, the interest rates are going to be relatively higher across the globe than what it is now. Therefore, you will have more failures in both corporates, SMEs, and the small and micro sector. It is nationalized banks like SBI which have given the brunt of main of these loans. Sooner or later, these NPAs will come to haunt them and will have to be written off, and another round of equity infusion needs to take place. Unless the management of SBA becomes completely independent, there is no point in doing this because, irrespective of party in power, telephone calls will keep coming. This year has been a good year. Like I said, this is the year when we have closed out all the loans, written it off, and the balance is clean. And the adjustments and losses have already been taken. So profits have gone up 83%. It's gone up to 16,695 crores. There's a healthy loan book and net interest margin has increased. The loan book in Q4 is 32.69 lakh crores or 32.69 trillion rupees. Personal loans have gone up 17.6%, corporate loans 12.5%, which clearly shows that the bank is now changing its focus to retail to compete with banks like ICICI and HDFC Bank. Corporate loan is up 12.5%. Home loan alone is worth 6.4 trillion. Deposits have gone up 9.2% to $44.24 trillion. CASA is where the problem is. CASA has declined. That means cheap deposits have eluded. This is worrying because all the major government accounts are in SBI. All pensions are distributed through SBI. Therefore, if their CASA is down, then there is a problem. So basically what has happened is CASA has dipped by 148 points or 1.48%, and CASA total deposit has come down from 46% to 43.8%. Net interest margin has gone up to 40,390 crores. Gross NPA is 19%. Net NPA is at 18%. So definitely NPAs are going to come in the future. So using net interest margin of 3.5, you have definitely made a big profit. The profit for the year crosses 50,000 crores for the first time. But as I said, private banks trade at more than 2 times their book. In spite of all this effort, SBI is trading only at 1.68 times book. So its book itself is not great. It's about 300 or 400. The stock is now at 575. Price to book is only 1.68. That means the market knows what I'm talking about on the quality of loans. EPS is 62.4 and the P/B ratio is not even 10 at this point of time. Earnings yield is 5.7. The promoter has 57. FIIs are only 10%. Domestic institutional investors are 25 and the public 8%. This is what is the problem. So what are the subsidiaries we have is SBI Capital Markets, SBI Life, SBI General, and SBI Cards and Payments. Unless the management is freed from the government, there is no point in owning a PSU stock. Thank you for watching पैसा बोलता है में आप आए और इस प्रोग्राम को सुने, इसके लिए मैं आभारी हूँ. If you like this content, like this video, hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. If you do not turn on the bell notification, you will not be notified about our next video. पैसा बोलता है मैं को एंकरेज करने के लिए मैं आपका शुक्रगुजार हूँ. नमस्कार, धन्यवाद, जय हिंद. पैसा बोलता है मैं फिर से आपका स्वागत है. मैं सिंगापुर गया था. सिंगापुर में सब भारतीय लोग मुझे प्यार से स्वागत किया और वो जो मीटिंग हुआ उसमें तो बहुत सारे अतिथियों से मुलाकात हुई और ये तो कंप्लीट सक्सेस हो गया. अगले मीटिंग जून 11 रविवार को हम कोलालमपुर में करने वाले हैं. जो कोलालमपुर में रहते हैं वो मीटिंग में आ सकते हैं और मुझे मिल सकते हैं. धन्यवाद, नमस्कार, जय हिंद.